It was one of those afternoons when the air felt heavy, like the whole sky was holding its breath before something terrible broke loose. Folks in Mill Haven, a quiet Georgia town, were just going about their day, kids spilling out of the library, a couple of moms waiting on the corner with strollers, an old man sipping coffee outside the barbershop. And then like a knife through calm water came a gunshot, sharp, cold, and wrong. The bullet ripped through the chest of a 14-year-old girl named Naomi Reed. She wasn't yelling, she wasn't running, she wasn't even looking at the officers. She was signing. Her hands were moving in that soft rhythm she used to calm herself, tracing words in American Sign Language. She had just spelled, "I'm going home," and then she dropped. Her sketchbook spilled out, first sliding across the sidewalk, pages fluttering like wings cut mid-flight. Inside were drawings of superheroes, black girls with hearing aids with open hands, not clenched fists flying through skies she could only imagine. But Naomi didn't fly that day. Blood spread across the pale pink of her hoodie, a brutal splash of red against innocence. Her hearing implant clattered on the pavement, buzzing faintly before going silent. For half a second, the whole block froze. Then came the second shot, fired recklessly into the air. Officer Kyle Rourke's hands were still trembling on his weapon, his partner barking at him. "Stand down, damn it! She's down!" from across the street. Tasha Coleman, who ran the cafe on Maple Row, came rushing out with a mop in one hand and her phone in the other, recording every second. "She's deaf," she shouted, her voice shaking with fury. "That girl is deaf, you cowards." "She couldn't even hear you," Rourke barked back. Panicked, she didn't comply. She was throwing up gang signs, gang signs. Tasha cut him off her camera, trained on his face. "She was signing, you moron." The crowd swelled, phones in the air, voices rising. Kids crying, mothers clutching them close. Sirens wailed in the distance, but none of it reached Naomi. Her body twitched faintly, a reflex, more than a choice, lips moving, like she was trying to speak, though no sound came. What no one on that street knew was that deep inside her chest, beneath the collarbone, a tiny sensor had just been triggered. A fail-safe the size of a implanted 3 years earlier with her father's consent. The signal traveled silently, bouncing off encrypted satellites straight into the hands of one man, Isaac Reed. Isaac wasn't just a father. Once he was the government's ghost, a strategist who built systems no one admitted existed. For the past few years, he'd been a widower, living quiet, raising Naomi, trying to be more parent than phantom. But when the alert pinged through, he didn't flinch, didn't breathe a word. He just stood up in the middle of a closed-door briefing in Virginia, closed his folder, and said, "Family emergency." That was all. Then he walked out. By the time Naomi was wheeled into Mill Haven Regional Hospital, Isaac's private jet had already landed 20 miles out of town. He stepped off wearing nothing but a gray hoodie and old jeans, a guitar case slung across his back. The case didn't carry music. He wasn't alone. Kara Boone, a hacker he once pulled out of a prison sentence, and Caleb Dre, a combat medic turned trauma counselor, fell in step beside him. Kara asked softly, "What's the play, Isaac?" His reply was flat, carved out of steel. "We burned the narrative." Inside the hospital, Olivia Merrick fought to keep Naomi alive, her voice clipped as she barked orders. "She's just a kid," she whispered when she saw the wound, trying not to lose her composure. The staff whispered too. Naomi's last name was Reed. Could it be that Reed? They didn't know? Meanwhile, back at the precinct, Chief Holt barked at his men to lock down the story. Minor failed to comply. Incident under investigation. But out on the streets, people had already seen Tasha's footage. And across the country, the hashtag Justice for Naomi was trending. Isaac, Kara, and Caleb set up in a safe house 2 blocks from the hospital. Within hours, Kara was inside the precinct server. She found something that made her blood run cold. Naomi had been flagged by a predictive policing program called Sentinel Index. The AI had logged her as suspicious for unrecognized hand movements in lingering in public. Caleb read it aloud, disbelief in his voice. Unrecognized hand movements. She was signing. They flagged her for being deaf and black. Isaac's jaw tightened. No, he said. A human triggered it. Kara dug deeper. The order came from Captain Hal Mercer, a man reassigned from Atlanta after a string of buried complaints. The system didn't just fail, it was used as a weapon. And that's when the cracks inside the force began to show. Officer Miguel Ramirez, just 24, sought Isaac out in an abandoned church. He was shaking, eyes red. I was there, he admitted. I saw her signing. My cousin's deaf, I knew. But Mercer told me to keep quiet or I'd be reassigned if I was lucky. I froze. Isaac looked at him, voice calm but sharp as glass. You're already shot, son. You just don't have the scar yet. Ramirez broke, whispered. What do I do? Isaac slid him a flash drive. Tell the truth, or go write parking tickets until someone else's child dies. Ramirez took the drive with tears in his eyes. That night, Kara dropped the first payload. A 90-second body cam clip from Officer Hanley Rourke's shaken partner leaked online. It showed Naomi signing peacefully, then collapsing as the shot rang out. No commands, no warning, just execution. The clip ended with her sketchbook splattered in blood. The only caption was one word: truth. By morning, Mill Haven was a war zone of outrage. Protesters filled the streets with candles and cardboard signs. Hands are not weapons. Silence is not a crime. The mayor, Evelyn Cross, went on camera calling for calm, insisting on trust in the process. But Isaac already had her voice on tape from a closed-door security briefing. If they can't follow standard verbal protocol, they're a risk. Handle it. That recording hit Justice Loop and underground watchdog platform live. Tens of thousands watched the mayor condemn children like Naomi with her own words. When Evelyn realized she was being broadcast, she paled. This won't hold up, she hissed. Isaac looked her dead in the eye and said, you don't get to choose, not after Naomi. The fallout was immediate. FBI agents stormed the private hangar where Cross Mercer and their corporate partner from Fortis Defense were trying to flee. Cameras caught the scene, tactical teams surrounding them, spotlights blazing. Meanwhile, Naomi stirred in her hospital bed. Days had passed with Isaac at her side, holding her cold hand, whispering words she couldn't hear, but might somehow feel, and then slowly her eyelids fluttered open. Her fingers trembled, forming a shaky sign. Am I still me? Isaac broke for the first time. Tears streaked down his face as he signed back, hands trembling. You are more than yourself. You are the reason their empire is falling. Naomi managed the faintest smile. 5 days later, against every doctor's advice, she insisted on speaking not just to her father, not to the lawyers, but to the world. They set up a live stream titled She Speaks. No intro music, no theatrics. Just Naomi, bruised, bandaged, sitting upright in a hospital bed, her hands steady in the glow of a small lamp. An interpreter sat quietly beside her. Naomi signed slowly, each word deliberate. I wasn't dangerous. I was different. And that was enough to make them afraid. Her hands cut sharper now. I signed because I couldn't speak. They shot me because they didn't care to listen. I am not broken. But this system is. Within minutes, millions were watching. Classrooms replayed her words. News anchors wept on air. In cities across America, crowds signed her speech in unison. The chant that echoed was not just shouted, it was signed, Justice for Naomi. In the courthouse weeks later, Officer Rourke sat hunched, stripped of his uniform, eyes darting. And across the room, Naomi sat in her wheelchair, scar faint but visible, gaze unwavering. Her aunt had braided her hair that morning, her blouse plain white, her presence louder than any siren. When Ramirez testified against his own department, saying it wasn't a mistake, it was a pattern. And this time it was a child, the gallery erupted. Naomi raised a whiteboard, words written in steady black marker. I will not die in silence. The jury gasped. The judge nodded gravely, and Rourke lowered his head because there was nowhere left to hide. Isaac never smiled through the chaos. He didn't need to. He watched his daughter rise, watched her voice reach millions without ever leaving her lips. Later, he would launch a platform called Read Code, a place where families of disabled children could tell their stories, share their fears, and remind the world that difference is not danger. Naomi herself began posting short videos teaching others ASL not as a tool but as a culture, a language of resilience. And slowly the tide shifted. Schools invited her to speak. Legislators cited her case. But Isaac knew the fight wasn't over. Systems this deep don't die easy. And that's where this story leaves us, with a father who turned grief into fire, with a girl who signed the truth loud enough to shake a nation, and with a town still divided between those who saw justice and those who saw only another headline. So now I'll ask you, the ones listening, the ones who've made it this far, do you think Isaac was right to burn the system down from the inside? Or should he have let the so-called process play out? Have you ever seen someone silenced just because they were different? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this isn't just Naomi's fight, it's ours. And remember, silence is never the crime. The crime is when no one listens.